Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's CNCF TAG Environmental Sustainability meeting. Today is a special meeting. We will talk about how to get started with the TAG. We will have an overview of the CNCF community structure, what we are doing in the TAG, and how to contribute or take the first steps. Today is Wednesday, the 29th, and this meeting falls under the CNCF Code of Conduct, which can be summarized to be just excellent to each other. And yeah, if you have because we have a couple of slides, usually we run just down the agenda. If you have any questions, just raise your hand and we can just stop and just answer the questions. All right. So this is the agenda. As I said, first the community structure. The CNCF is quite big, a lot of community parts moving around. It can be quite challenging to get an overview about everything, how it actually works. What is a tag? Where does it stands? Where is it? What are the other community groups in the CNCF? So there's a couple of slides about that. We will also talk about briefly about the charter of the tag and the people that have been elected to steer the tag. And then Christina will talk a little bit about the projects and how to get started in open source. Right, about the structure. So starting off with the charter, we have a charter document. We discussed this charter document to basically found the tag. You can find a charter document for more or less any community group. So if you have, for example, other tags or other groups, you will always have a charter, and the charter is usually a very good place to first get in touch with what is this group actually focusing on and working on. So for us, and this is something which you will find across the tags, the first part, that we advocate, develop, support, and evaluate, and then initiatives in the cloud-native technologies. And for us, it's environmental sustainability. So cloud-native sustainability. For other tags, it's then security in cloud-native, for example. And the second part, which I usually also put on these kinds of slides, is that we identify values for service providers and basically to reduce the overall consumption, the carbon footprint of cloud-native tooling, so that we also have something for adopters, for projects, that we have this is kind of the value that we also, I think everybody of us would like to work on, that we do something good for the community, for the projects. But this is just 2 sentences, basically. The charter is a lot longer. There are also goals described and scopes and so on. And we also have those kinds of charters for the working groups. About communication, I think this is very important. I think most of you or all of you are already on Slack. This is the main communication channel for us. So if there's something happening in the tag, it's always posted on Slack. But Slack can also be a little bit overwhelming to track all those messages. So if you are interested in one particular effort, it's usually best to keep track of those on GitHub. So we have issues, and we cross-post them on Slack, on our website, on social media, and so on. So basically, the anchor point of projects are in GitHub. So you have one issue for one subject. Then we chatter about it in Slack. Maybe we also have an email about it, but we don't really use email too much. But right, these are our main communication channels. If you are in Slack and reading all these messages, you have basically you should have all the knowledge of what is going on. And you can also scan this QR code. This is basically just a list of links where you can find those links, and also the link to the calendar, for example. We created a new calendar recently where you can subscribe to events. So if you would like to get notified about the tag and meetings, working group meetings, and so on, you can just subscribe to the calendar. Right, about the structure. So we need a little bit of structure to basically just divide like all the efforts that we're working on. And also the idea is in open source that we want to elevate people, that people can thrive in their roles, but they are comfortable in contributing to the project. So some are more technical focused, some less technical focused. Some would like to organize events and so on. So we have just outlined a couple of roles, so it's just easier to collaborate with each other. And but it's important to know that you don't need to be in any role to contribute to any project. You can just comment, raise your hand, have any ideas. These roles is just something which is useful, so people feel obligated to actually also work in those roles. And it also just marks better like their contribution. So if somebody works a lot technically in a certain working group, it just makes sense to have a role tech lead because it just describes well what the person is actually doing. So we have the chairs and the tech leads. These roles are kind of like the leadership roles of the tag. There's like a couple of things. So for example, the tag is, and this is like on the next slide, better described. So the tags is basically like responsible for a certain domain in the CNCF. So as I talked about, there's also security and all those other things. So all those domains we have for the major domains tags. And the TOC, which is shown like on the next slide, but the TOC is responsible for the entire ecosystem, and the tags just extend the TOC. And the tag shares are kind of in contact with the TOC. So if there's like, for example, sandbox reviews, something like this, was usually always handled by the TOC, but now it's handled by the tags, and it's something that, for example, the chairs discuss with the TOC what is the best action to take, and so on. So steering the tag, trying to get people involved with the tag, all of this stuff. Right, and then we have like two types of projects, kind of. So we have temporary projects. For example, if there's like something, for example, the Cloud Native Sustainability Week, it's like something that we are working on for a couple of months. Then the event is happening, and then it's kind of over the event. So it's like a temporary project. And the working groups are persistent projects. For example, the communication working group, it's like consistent effort for us. We always need to communicate with the community. We try to, I don't know, improve the resources to better onboard people. So this is like a persistent project. And in those projects, we have also chairs and tech leads. But everybody can just more or less, there's like some, as I said, like some obligations, and they're defined like in the role governance file, if you're really interested. But usually you can just define the role a little bit as you would like it. So tech lead does not need to be that you're coding the entire time or whatever. It can also be like a more communicative role, more basically how it makes sense for the tag. Right, and there's a new role which we are kind of discussing. There's an idea from Chicago this month, actually, tag ambassador. So a lot of folks also in our tag, but in general, are kind of in this role where they are very passionate about this, but they maybe don't have like the capacity to lead like entire projects, but they are constantly showing up and helping the tag and being like in some form of ambassador role, maybe for example in organizing meetups or transporting, I don't know, the ideas to the community and so on. So this is like something that we discuss right now, maybe also interesting for some of you. And then everybody who is just contributing to the tag is a tag contributor. So we don't have like something like members, but it's like contributor. So if you would like to, I don't know, talk to your employer and say, I'm working with a tag, you can just say, I'm a tag contributor. Yeah, the ambassador, right? I mean, we are just, this is like some rough idea, tag ambassador role, but I think it makes a lot of sense. Maybe also, for example, like some folks are working with other organizations, Free Software Foundation, for example. Maybe this can also be like something where an ambassador could be like a good fit. Right. And if you, as I said, this is like the next slide where you can see a lot more of those structures. So if you zoom out a little bit, there's like other committees, other groups in the CNCF. So you have adopters on the left side, which is basically just any company, does not need to be like an end user. So there's also like end users who are like being like an active part in the CNCF. And we are also working with adopters from time to time. But our main focus is with the projects, which is at the top. So we are inviting projects, CNCF projects, or actually like any cloud native open source project to our meetings, if they fall under like the cloud native sustainability field, and just show what they are working on. Right. And then there's a technical oversight committee. It's basically a community group. They're like the executive committee who actually at the end decides if a project graduates or is also accepted to the CNCF. There's the new committee which was founded like in the last 2 months. It's a technical advisory board from end users. So these basically, because over the time, the CNCF grew a lot in size. So the TOC has a lot to do. And the idea is now to split a little bit the work. So we have now a new group, the TAB. And then there's also the governing board who decides on funds and financial stuff. And there's also an executive committee. And then we have CNCF staff who is supporting us if we organize events, if we participate in any sort of event and so on. Right. And these are some phases from the tag environmental sustainability. At the end, you should include a lot more phases because all the contributions from anybody who's working on those projects is essential. So, but these are the people who are elected in those roles, which I just talked about briefly before. So if you see any of those people at a conference or so, you can identify, okay, they're with the tag. Right. And then one last slide before we talk about the projects we're working on. So maybe some of you are interested, okay, I'm very interested in the tag. How can I actually, and I would like to, I don't know, lead a project or whatever. And in my experience, when I started out, it helped me to have like some sort of roadmap for myself. At the end, everybody has like their very individual roadmap. So you don't need to take this like step by step, going from step 1 to the second to the third and so on. But it just like gives some kind of idea, maybe where you could focus on next. So I think the important part first is that if you're interested in the tag, that you just observe, that you participate in meetings, just listen a little bit. For example, also look at the slides in terms of, okay, how is it structured? Does it fit my, I don't know, idea of working with the open source community? How are they communicating and so on? So starting out is a lot of showing up and just observing if it's a good fit. And then if you would like to be more active in a way that you maybe take ownership on something, if you want to be like a more active part, You can propose ideas, you can open up issues, you can drop comments in Slack. You can just pick up an issue where it's has like, for example, like a help needed label or something, and say, I would like to help on this issue. And then you can also lead a project. So there's a lot of ideas we have how we can do something good for the community, but usually we miss leadership or basically bandwidth. So we have people, but everybody is already very busy with projects. So there's a lot of opportunity to drive new projects. So maybe that's something you would be interested in after that. And then another important part is helping out others. So if they're new, just maybe they need some guidance where to work on. So this can be the next step. And then at some point, maybe being elected in a working group or as tech lead or as chair. But I think not everybody needs to follow this, as I said. Any participation in the tag is very helpful for us. At the end, this is a community group. So if you would like to work on certain things, we empower those ideas. Whoops. Any questions before we talk about the projects? Oh, yes. Yes, no. No. Okay, Christina, would you like to share your screen now? I can.
Yeah, I can probably try to do that. Let's see. Give me a second. Was that the correct screen? I'm wondering. Yes, it is. Okay. Let's see here. All right. I hope you can see it. Just let me know if you don't. Okay. Give me a second. Okay. Yes. So if we dive a little bit into some concrete projects and maybe some examples of the steps that you can take to contribute to kind of the open source community in general and also to our TAG environmental sustainability. First, let's mention a few working groups that we currently have in the TAG that Leo briefly mentioned. Currently, we have 2 working groups. The first group that we have created is called Green Reviews, and what this working group focuses on is mainly to develop, implement a framework, a reusable workflow that can be used in order to assess the sustainability posture of the different projects that are the part of the CNCF landscape. And based on the measurements that can be performed towards those projects, we could assess how sustainable that project is and provide some statistics that can also be publicly available and that can also help maintainers of the projects to improve those projects and make them more sustainable, more resource efficient over time. And as part of that initiative, we also would like to kind of, with help of this framework, provide also some guidance on how the score and this overall sustainability posture can be improved. So this working group is a more technical group because we are kind of working on outlining both the design of this workflow implementation and also making the implementation happen itself. So this is a great opportunity also for those of you who may be interested in like doing some more technical contributions, for instance, when it comes to the infrastructure setup or setting up load testing towards the different projects that we may be measuring. Currently, we have Falco as the first CNCF projects that we are working tightly with, but I will briefly mention that in the next slide. So this is kind of a great opportunity for if you are interested also to work a bit closer to the code. And another working group that we have is the communications working group, or comms. And this working group is mainly focused on kind of the communication on behalf of the tags. So there are many different activities that this working group will be working with. For example, managing the content that we are sharing on the different social media accounts on behalf of the tag. Also ensuring that the communication also with the tag contributors and also new joiners is flowing smoothly and improving according to the feedback we are receiving. This working group can also help with coordinating the different initiatives we have, specifically the content publishing. Like we may have external content creators coming in and they would like to submit a blog post that we can publish on the TAG ENV website, and this working group can help kind of ensure that this process for the content creators is also smooth, and then the content, like blog posts, is kind of compliant or in scope to according to what the TAG ENV mission is in general. So this working group is mainly focused on non-technical activities, and the plan is to have to segregate it in kind of sub-activities where different people can take ownership. For instance, someone could work more on managing the social media accounts, and a different group of people can, for example, focus on following up the blog posts that are planned to be submitted and published as part of the tag. So this is also a great opportunity if you're more interested in non-technical contributions and maybe working tighter with the content that we are creating and publishing in the tag. So this group can be a great opportunity for you to kind of join. And there are different projects that we have in the tag, and not all of them necessarily are about code. So to bring up just a few of the active projects that we are working on, the first of them is the project that is under the Green Reviews working group, which I mentioned earlier. And this is what we, for now, call TESA. We are kind of checking out on the copyright and trademarking if this is the abbreviation we can use long term. But what this basically is, it is the TAG Environmental Sustainability's assessment pipeline. So we found TESA to be like the most, the nicest abbreviation we could use for now. And this is the vision is basically to have a kind of a pipeline, a GitHub workflow that can be reusable and that can be targeting long-term all the CNCF projects, and can be used to simulate the load test on a specific tool, the CNCF tool that may be running under load, and while it's running under load, use the measurement implementations to evaluate the kind of how sustainable and resource efficient that tool is, and based on that calculations, provide an overall sustainability posture score and publish statistics about that, and also provide some recommendations on how this sustainability posture can be improved. And currently we are still at the beginning. I would say we have a design document where we are outlining the different bits and pieces of this implementation, both when it comes to the underlying infrastructure setup where we could run such load tests, also what kind of frameworks we could use in order to perform this sustainability measurement, and also how we are going to publish these statistics and how we can provide a better review for the projects and so on. So it is still at the early stages, and this is also a great opportunity to just hop in and contribute both on kind of outlining the overall design and also looking into the more concrete implementation, and maybe even submitting the pull requests if you feel like doing that. And currently, as I mentioned, Falco is the first CNCF project we're tightly collaborating with to create this sustainability assessment pipeline. So this is, I think we will share the presentation afterwards, but there is a link to also to one of the GitHub issues where we gather interest from other CNCF projects. So if someone here today or someone who is watching the recording is a project maintainer or a project contributor, you are also welcome to submit your interest to the GitHub issue, and then this will be a more long-term collaboration with other CNCF projects as we mature. So the green reviews tooling, the link that you can see there is the repo where we are where we have our implementation of this sustainability assessment pipeline. So you are very welcome to check that out. And we also have a separate green reviews channel on Slack as well, which you will get a link to afterwards. And Greenscraper is a different project that at least the communications working group is following and kind of collaborating and communicating with those contributors who are interested in creating and finalizing this project. And it was created out of the idea that we see that more and more events have sustainability related sessions, or maybe even separate tracks that are dedicated to the topic of sustainability. And as a tag, we would like to also spread awareness about that so that the community knows about different local meetups around the globe and also more international events and conferences where the sustainability related sessions will be presented, so that it could be easier to find this information in one place, which could be the TAG's website. And we would like to avoid doing a lot of manual work, and therefore we would like to have some kind of automation process in place. And that's kind of from this idea, we created an issue, and then we had actually two of the TAG contributors that created the projects that could be used to automate this aggregation of all the sustainability related sessions that we could use to kind of automate it further to add and continuously update that list on our website. So these are the links to these two projects. One of them was created by William Rizzo, and it is donated to our Green Reviews tooling repository that was mentioned in the previous slide. And the other one is created by Al Hussein, and it is also available in a public repo. So what we're looking into now is if we could somehow maybe merge this project so that we could customize it a bit according to the tag's needs. And also, after we have decided upon that, how we could add the automation so that the data that is collected by this tool can also be, in a way, automatically or like smoothly updated on our website. So the link there in the bottom of the slide is to the issue where we are discussing how we can do that. So you are also very welcome to contribute if you have any ideas or suggestions or would like to work a bit closely on the implementation itself. And another type of projects can also be documents that or type of content that the TAG Environmental Sustainability can make publicly available. And one of these documents is the Cloud Native Sustainability Landscape. So this is a living document, I believe. The first version was published maybe in June. The last update was to it, at least in June. And this is quite an extensive document that we would kind of like to evolve a bit further and make it as useful as possible for the community to be able to navigate in the cloud native landscape, to understand what are the current challenges with the cloud native sustainability, what are the different initiatives and efforts that are happening in this space, and what kind of tools that are already available out there, and where you could utilize those tools in order to improve, for instance, the sustainability posture in your companies or your projects. And there are also sector-specific challenges that are also outlined in that document, and we are currently looking into maybe finding the core resources that can be, or core members that can take ownership of this landscape document and drive it further together with the contributions from the community. So there is also a separate issue on that where we would also be happy to collect any feedback or suggestions that you may have around driving it further. Another project type is events, and the one that I believe was a big success. I personally think it was an awesome effort from the global community, and it has been really successful, especially if you think that it has been organized for the very first time, and that was the Cloud Native Sustainability Week. We did it for the first time this year in the second week of October, which kind of was the main week where most of the events happened. But we also had the events that happened kind of after that week, so it kind of lasted for a little bit longer, which is also great, I think. And the main goal of that event was to unite the global community so that we can share our learnings, experiences, to understand the challenges and how we can improve the sustainability in the cloud native and open source space. And we had 22 local meetups that have been organized across 16 countries and 4 continents. So it was a truly global effort, and all the organizers of the local meetups have just been amazingly engaged. And this is very cool to see. We also had daily blog posts and live streams, and we have a separate playlist dedicated to Cloud Native Sustainability Week on our YouTube channel. So if you haven't heard about it until now, or maybe weren't able to participate in any of those meetups, you are very much welcome to check out the recordings, both from some of the local meetups, which were able to record their sessions, but also from the daily live streams and from the virtual mini conference that was arranged by the TAG. So it was a two hours conference where we had a few speakers from the community, and where we also talked a little bit more about the TAG and the ongoing projects. And we have already started planning for 2024. It's never too early to start. So we just created an issue with some thoughts around organizing the Cloud Native Sustainability Week in 2024. And we are currently looking for the lead organizers who can kind of take a little bit of broader ownership over the event as a whole. And we are looking potentially at having more than one to be able to cover the different time zones, and also to ensure that it can be scalable and sustainable also for those who will be contributing to this effort. So if you're also interested to contribute in any stages of the planning or to the different activities that will be related to this event, you can already now mention your interest by just commenting on that issue. So we will be very, very happy for getting more people involved next year. And other than that, we have a lot of ideas that are just popping up during the project meetings, during the discussions on Slack, and we thought about that it can be a good idea to have one place where we can gather all those ideas, where we can see which ideas have the most like interest and drive from the community, so that we could also see if there are any additional projects and activities that we could focus on for you already in 2024. So there is also a separate issue for that. And if you have any ideas or thoughts, or you would like to support any of the ideas that are suggested in there, you're also welcome to just go to that issue, GitHub issue, and engage, and let us know your thoughts and any ideas that you may have around what projects we can work on. And some of the projects that are currently stale, but we had the ideas around these projects for some time now, is to kind of work on the maturity model for the cloud native sustainability, for looking into creating a document or maybe the guidance on how you could run Kubernetes sustainably, creating a learning path for the cloud native sustainability that could be useful for the newcomers to learn more about the topic and kind of make it a smoother experience to navigate that landscape. And maybe there is something else that we haven't mentioned here that would be really useful and in scope for the tag. So if you have any ideas, please share them in our GitHub issue. And those were the projects, but many beginners may be a bit concerned about how can we contribute to the open source, and for many it may seem a little bit scary. So we would like also to use the opportunity to kind of encourage and maybe provide some tips about how you could approach this contribution journey to the open source and also to the TAG environmental sustainability. There are a few steps that can be taken if you consider to start contributing to the open source community as a whole. So the TAG is just a small part of a larger, broader open source community. And there are tons of projects out there, so it can be a bit overwhelming. And how can you kind of start considering to contribute to open source? And I think the most important place where you start is to kind of reflect upon your own interests, upon what you're working with, what you are personally interested in. And once you have identified that, the road from there may be a bit easier, because it will then be easier to identify which projects may be the most relevant and may correlate in the best possible way with what you personally are passionate about. And many of the members of the TAG are the members of the TAG, or the contributors to the TAG, because they also have a personal interest and passion for the topic of sustainability. And this is a great place where these interests are aligned also with their personal preferences, including myself. So this is kind of the first step to your contribution journey. And then, apart from the TAG, let's say if you were to consider some additional projects in open source projects that you would like to contribute to, there are some services out there that can help you to kind of locate some of these projects. CNCF Landscape can be one place to start. We have just released a new landscape graphics, which I believe is really nice and fresh and interactive, which should make it maybe a bit easier to get a good overview of all the CNCF projects that are available. But there are also initiatives like Open Source Friday, Hacktoberfest, which just happened last month, GitHub Explore page, that can provide you an overview of the different projects that are accepting open source contributions, and can help you maybe do some filtering and check out some of the projects and evaluate if that could work for you. And then a good pinpoint when you have, for example, found the project is to take a look at its contributing guide, how well it is documented, how if it is detailed. You can take a look at the overall contributions if to identify if the project is active. Check out the amount of maybe issues and pull requests so that you can understand if the project is alive and has actually contributors, because there are also maybe projects that have unfortunately become stale and haven't been maintained for some time, and this is also something that happens in open source. So to kind of avoid any further confusion for yourself, this would be a good place to start, is just to check how active the project is and how well documented it is for how you can start contributing. And it's not only about technical contributions and contributions to the code. The non-technical contributions are very valid and very needed in many projects, and this can be anything from the documentation to translations of the content and documentation, to governance, kind of roles, memberships in the project community management, like helping out with the community meetings, with the issues that may be raised on the different channels like Slack and Discord or on GitHub. And there can be multiple non-technical ways to contribute available in many of these projects. And this often can also be part of the contributing guide. And of course, join the project community. That's where you can also kind of continuously learn about the project and also learn from the other contributors that have been doing it for a while. And there you could also ask questions, and also at some point even help others who may be newcomers and may ask questions themselves. And personally, I do believe there are no stupid questions, and the open source community and the cloud native community is very open and inclusive and really willing to help. It's just yeah, through the time I've been here and been contributing, I felt like people are really happy to help out if you just ask a question. So this is a very welcoming environment, and I hope that all of you can get the same experience about it. So don't be afraid to ask any questions or raise any thoughts you may have in the community channels. And also seek feedback about the changes you make. If you're a bit unsure, you could also create a draft and, for example, ask someone from the community to take a look at it, or maybe even have a short session to discuss it with you. This can also be a good way if you feel a bit unsure before making it fully available for everyone to do the code review, for example. This can also be a way to get a feedback a little bit before making it fully available, especially if it's your first contribution. Yeah, and this is just a more detailed illustration of all the different areas where you can contribute to open source. So there is a multitude of different activities where where contributions can be valuable. So this is basically just about where you feel most safe to get started and what correlates most with your personal passions and interests and knowledge. And when it comes to the tag itself, Leo mentioned quite a few steps, and here we also tried to kind of visualize it a bit. So we have a contributing guide in our GitHub repo where we go more into the details of how you can start contributing and how you can submit your first pull request, for example. We have issues on GitHub which you also can filter based on the labels. We have the help wanted label, and I'm wondering if we have a beginner-friendly label. I don't remember, actually. Maybe you remember, Leo. I'm wondering if we... No?
No.
No.
Maybe that's
But we
something
have at least the help wanted label.
Yes.
that one we have. And there if you're afraid to like take the full ownership, for example, or you're don't feel quite confident about doing that yet, you can also mention that you would like to collaborate with someone on this because you are new and you would like to have a bit of a safer way into it, instead of like taking the full ownership. So this can be a good opportunity to do that, just by mentioning that you would like to collaborate with someone else. And then we have seen this, for example, with the getting started blog post that we recently published on our website. We had at least 3 contributors to that blog post and multiple reviewers of that, so that no one would feel left out or alone by creating that blog post. And this is just one example how you could collaborate with others on a specific contribution. And then we have our regular meetings both in the TAG and in the working groups. So this is also just a good opportunity to start to get to know our community, ask questions, and maybe share some ideas and participate in the discussions. And you can also participate in the same way in an asynchronous manner on our Slack and GitHub and also LinkedIn and X. And basically any help to the projects, the different types of projects that I have mentioned earlier can be a great opportunity where we need everyone to pitch in, and it is highly valued and appreciated. Yeah, I think that was it from my side, and we still have some time left for the discussion and any questions you may have about any of those topics. Let's see. I'm wondering, I need to open the chats. Yeah.
I send a lot of links.
Yeah, that's good. We could probably share the slides afterwards as well.
Yeah, already uploaded them in Slack. Awesome. Yeah, I think in open source you just need to like think about what would you like to work on. I think open source can be very good if you also want to explain something new, maybe at work or it's like wherever you spend a lot of time at. Maybe you don't have like the possibility to work on environmental sustainability because this is just not the focus of the company and you cannot change the entire company, right? So open source can be great that you can just, okay, I join this community. I'm very interested in cloud native. And then you can, in the community, you can check out one field, sustainability, for example. And then you have basically a new environment, new people. You can discuss with the people, learn something about sustainability, and then also bring it back to your company, or just do something good in general. Learn, maybe meet some new folks, some new friends, maybe join KubeCon. Great conference. So it's like always depends like how much you put in, because nobody will tell you, okay, you need to work on this issue now. I mean, if you assign yourself, somebody will ping you eventually, probably. But it's like, this is very much driven by everyone who contributes. So if you contribute more, you usually also get a little bit more out of it because you learn more, you get more in touch with people. So for example, the Cloud-Native-Sustainability Week, it's maybe not like the craziest technical project because it's a lot of like organizational work, but we have like so many technical talks at the conference. So you also get in touch with those technical topics afterwards and also with very technical people. So networking in a way is like something that just happens, which I think is also very good. Knowing more people in the community, maybe this helps you also to find a new job, which fits better your style. So, yeah. Any questions? Or maybe different question. to anyone. Is there like something you would like to, I don't know, see happening in the tag, or something that caught your interest why you joined this meeting, or in general maybe noticed the tag? Or not? It's late in the year. Everybody is already shutting down a little bit, getting ready for the holidays. Maybe. All right. I think one of the important messages. Oh, now there are questions. Awesome. I think one of the important messages is that you should always feel like empowered or whatever, just to message also somebody. So in general, we always want to keep like every communication public, but if you are starting out, if you need like some guidance, just feel free to ping someone. This can be anybody who you saw the face on earlier on the slide, but also like anybody who's like in the community in general. Okay. The talk covered everything I had questions on. Yeah, I think there was like a lot of information on the slides, so feel free to just read them up later. This was also the idea, giving a little bit more detail on things. All right. No questions, but it sounds like people found it interesting. That's great. So probably we will do another of these meetings early next year for the other time zones. So it's a little bit more comfortable for folks in India and Asia and so on. And then the next big conference, if you would like to meet some of us in person, is in Paris, KubeCon Paris. That's a great place to meet. We usually also have a maintainer talk and also an in-person meetup. Maybe we will also have like a co-located events. We are trying to push it through, even if the deadline already passed. Who knows? So if you happen to have the possibility to go there, just look up Slack and we will for sure have like a meetup or something. The link tree is also a great source of information. Yeah, it's very new. I think, Christina, you created it like 2 days ago.
Yeah, that kind of made sense. Instead of putting all the links on the slide, now we have a fancy UI for it.
Yeah, we don't need to juggle QR codes anymore.
Yeah.
One master QR code.
Single place for everything, the universe of the tag.
Exactly. Right. So I think in Slack, you are in Slack. That's great. And then signing up to the calendar if you're interested in participating on some of the meetings. And then you will just get like updates on your calendar. I think that's probably easiest. And then just read up the resources. If you have any questions, feel free to ping over direct message or just directly in Slack in TAG Environmental Sustainability. If you would like to work on something, just comment in the issue. And don't feel like pressure to do like, oh, I need to do like crazy things now. That's not true at all. Like any contribution, just thumbs up sometimes also helps, that we just know, okay, people actually are interested in this kind of stuff. Helps a lot. All right. I will stop the recording in a second.